We now proceed to Congressman Brad Sherman of California.
We were in a strong position in 2014, 2015. We had effective sanctions, particularly the banking sanctions. We had international support and compliance with those sanctions. And we had an American public attitude that would allow us to convey a credible threat of military action. And then finally, we had an Iranian nuclear program that had not been hardened against airstrikes. Today, we are in a weaker position. We still have the sanctions, and then they grab a hostage, and we waive this or that aspect of the sanctions. We certainly have no international support, and the American public is less enthusiastic, to use a word, about the use of American military force in the Middle East. I think both sides of this argument agree that we had a strong position in 2014, 2015. Those who supported the JCPOA said, we had this great position, that's why we got such a great deal. Others said, we have such a strong position, we should get a better deal. Now we're in a weaker position. Others during this hearing have argued that we need to create in the minds in Tehran a credible threat of military force. In order to do that, we would have to have a credible threat of military force. I think both doves and hawks agree that it'd be great for Tehran to fear military action and then not have to engage in the military action. But I think that the risk of, I think the American people might support action if it was highly effective and not terribly costly. So I'll ask, and I hope I mispronounced your name right, Mr. Talablu, how vulnerable is the Iran nuclear program, not to commandos on the ground and an invasion and a million forces. Yeah, I realize if we could deploy 1 million troops, we could do something. How vulnerable is that program? How many years or months could it be set back by 2 or 3 days of American Air Force action?
Thank you, Congressman. It's an important question. I don't think any air campaign of 2 or 3 days would totally resolve the Iranian nuclear program, and because Iran is likely to respond, it would beget a cycle of escalation that the U.S. or Israel or whatever state engaging in the military option would have to be prepared to absorb, offset, deter, and again kinetically respond to. I think it'll be several thousand sorties, but never forget this: there's always a bigger bomb. The Iranians tunnel deeper. The Americans produce different, massive ordnance penetrators. The U.S. should not be in the business of even rhetorically of diminishing its own military deterrence. So I have confidence in the U.S. military capability. It's more a question of making sure that the Islamic Republic
you have
fears
confidence
that.
in the ability, but a few days of bombing wouldn't set them back very far.
Well, why would you engage in a time-limited campaign? Why would the U.S. limit its duration?
Because the American people demanded that we pull out of Afghanistan. The American people demanded we pulled out of Iraq.
That's right.
Neither political party was in favor of even leaving a few thousand troops in Afghanistan. And you cannot have a credible threat of military force if the military force that is credible does not credibly correlate with the public opinion in a democracy. But let me move on to another question, and that is, we have in the past provided tiny amounts of open aid to pro-democracy forces in Iran. I remember it was once national headline that we provided $3 million. First time I saw $3 million above the fold in the newspaper, back when we had newspapers. Should we be providing covert or overt aid to democracy forces, and to what? I realize one of our witnesses has spoke eloquently about standing with the people. We can put economic pressure on the regime, which may hurt the Iranian people. But what about funding democracy forces? Ms. Maloney, would those forces be more successful if they were funded? And would they be hurt by being associated with American aid?
This is an issue I've talked and written about, and I will say my own views have changed over the years. I have worried about the taint that American funding might put on legitimately Iranian groups.
Although that taint will exist in either case. If we don't give them money, Tehran will say we do, and if we do give them money, we'll say we don't. So,
and that's exactly the position that I hold today. I think that we need to put all of our efforts toward helping the Iranian people to see what they've been fighting for more than a century. I do believe that the regime is more fragile than it has ever been, despite the apparent diplomatic heft that it has through its relationships with Russia and China. And I do believe that the Iranian people are more coherent in terms of their own mobilization against the regime, and that what we saw last September with the protests in the wake of the death of Mahsa Amini will one day be seen as the beginning of the end of the Islamic Republic.
well, I hope someday that we're as robust as Tehran accuses us of being, and I regard the greatest weakness of that regime, not a weakness that they don't have enough concrete protecting their nuclear facility, but that they don't have the support of the Iranian people. I yield back.